Hello and welcome back to Zandvoort. This is the 8-hour race of the Fun Cup series that happened on Sunday. If you haven't watched the 4-hour race that happened on Saturday, then go check that out first. But yeah, during the night the mechanics fixed our car. The chassis had broken, so they fixed that and also made some little setup changes. We also had a new solution for the radio, but it was not ideal because the race engineer could only talk to us drivers, but we couldn't answer. That was better than not having radio at all, but it did not work for long because the call got cut out before the race had even started. So Tuomas couldn't hear anything, and there was a bit of shenanigans happening in the car before the start, as you can see, while Tuomas was trying to answer our call before the race started. Unfortunately, the formation lap started just before Tuomas could connect the call again, so then it was about the race start and warming up tires and preparing to go for the race. The formation was interesting before the start, almost going forward, and then the lights went out and the race was underway. The track at this point was still partly wet, so Tuomas was very careful at the start, which is not a bad thing in a 8-hour endurance race. You can only lose time crashing now at this point. But yeah, let's sit with Tuomas and watch the mayhem of lap 1 unfold. Tuomas had some great battles during his stint, but ultimately it was difficult for him to get forward because of our lack of straight line performance in our car. You can see that we are really close behind coming out of the last turn, but during the front straight the cars in front will gain a load of time, and when we get to the first corner they are much further away than they were before the start of the straight. So really this was making the racing a little bit difficult, mainly in the drive, because the straight line performance is very important when you are trying to make passes. This one here was a great move from Tuomas, passing 2 cars on the inside, but then there would be a full course yellow, first one of this race, and many was still to come after that one. And here Tuomas was able to call from the car to the pits, and we were really surprised when the radio phone rang while we were in the pits watching, but this was amazing stuff from Tuomas here. During the full course yellow, Tuomas managed to close the gap to the cars in front by driving a shorter line and gaining time in that way, not going over the speed limit of 60 km per hour, but just being efficient with the lines. But only on 1 lap after the full course yellow ended, another one came round, and when the guys were slowing down, one car got hit and spun, as we can see here right in front of Tuomas. But that meant that while the pit window was open, Tuomas was going to box on this lap, and we would get driver change and get Henri behind the wheel. During the pit stops, the mechanics couldn't find the phone because Tuomas had taken it out of the pocket where it should have been, so Henri wouldn't have the radio at this point, and we were also having problems with transponders, so the mechanics were sticking another one into the car, which didn't solve the problems, but we were still able to race, so it didn't matter that much. Henri would then go on to take some fuel, and then we would continue racing again. But of course not quite yet, because there was still the full course yellow. Henri would then try to find the phone and connect it to his earphones, and miraculously we also managed to do that, so we again had a working radio solution. Here then some moments from Henri's stint. He then got stuck behind these 2 cars, and after that a full course yellow came again. the pit window had opened just before the full course yellow ended, so we had asked Henri to pit in, so then he pit at when the full course yellow ended. It would then be Pekka's turn to get behind the wheel, and the phone was also back in the pocket, so the radio system was working as intended. And finally, after Pekka, it was time for my first stint in the car for the day. During the pit stop, Pekka's adapter was left on the cable, so the mechanics couldn't connect the radio for me, so once again I was driving without a radio, but that didn't matter much. We lost a little bit of time in the pits because of that, but yeah, otherwise it was going good. We were around 25th at this point, so not really going forwards or backwards, just keeping our position. At this point there were also already many cars lapped down, and some cars were lapping us. Leaders were really fast, and we couldn't keep up with them at this race. Hopefully next time we will be able to do better, but let's see how that goes down. But yeah, let's watch some best moments from my first stint now. as this guy dives into the pits. The pit window had been open for around 10 minutes at this point, so I was thinking that I must come in soon. We had a pit board, but they had not shown it yet for me. But then I found this guy on the gravel, again in the same place, and on the next straight there was a full course yellow. So when I got to the pit lane entrance next time, I just took a risk and went to the pits, and therefore we lost less time pitting in, and that was a really good gamble there. We gained some time, and that was a good call from me, even though I didn't see the pit board. After me, Henri would get in for his second stint, and the radio would be working again too. Henri had a quite lonely second stint, which was nice. He could get in the rhythm and drive good lap times and learn the car more. But he did also see a couple of other cars on the track. These cars with the flashing blue light were actually two-seaters, so there were a driver and also a passenger on board. Again a full course yellow would come and Henri would pit in and we would have a driver change to Pekka. Some guys were going well over 60 at full course yellows. You can see Pekka does half a lap and this guy gains like 5 seconds. Then it would be time for Tuomas's second stint. We were lucky that this guy came past us right after Tuomas came out of the pits, because he was slightly faster than us and we could then drive in his slipstream and gain time in that way. Now Henri would get behind the wheel, and after him Pekka, so they would have completed the 3 stints, mandatory 3 stints, and then they would head to the airport and fly back to Finland while Tuomas and I would be finishing the race. Henri would then catch up to these guys about halfway through the stint, and he would spend the rest of the stint stuck behind these cars who were a couple of seconds slower per lap, but they were in a group and they had faster cars on the straight, so it was impossible for Henri to get past without causing incidents. The call from the car to the pits had cut off during Henri's stint, so we would have the pit board for him to let him know to come into the pits. We then also decided to not try to reconnect the call, so we would lose less time in the pits, but ultimately that wasn't the best strategy because we would then lose some time because of not having the radio and making kinda bad strategical decisions because of that. There had been few drops of rain at the end of Henri's stint, but from this moment on there would be some smaller and bigger showers on the track, so it would make things more interesting. Finally, it was my turn to take some fuel and get on to my second stint at this point. Although there was this problem that there was no one to fuel my car up at first. After these two guys pitted at the end of the pit window, there would be the first drops of rain for me, and now the changing conditions would be really good for us because we didn't really have the speed in the car in the dry, but in the rain it is more about the driver skill than the speed of the car, so we could gain some positions now and try to get a better result. It was then time for me to hand the car over to Tuomas for his last stint. At this point we were off sequence with the fuel compared to others, but now that there came a full course yellow, even though we didn't have a radio, we tried to be clever and make Tuomas bid for only fuel during the fuel course yellow, so we would lose less time fueling now. But in the end it backfired because the fuel course yellow ended before Tuomas could get into the pits, and that meant that Tuomas bid for fuel during green, which made us lose more time. At the end of Tuomak's stint, the rain would become very heavy, and I knew then that I had the chance to gain positions on my last stint, because other guys were being very careful while I was trying to go then with full attack when I got into the car. compared to most of the field, I was very fast in the rain and overtaking left, right and center, but there were still a couple of guys that were faster than me, and then this group of 3 would pass me, and then I could learn some little tricks from them also before the end of the race. And this right here would be the start of the final lap of the race, and I think I can give you a pretty good example of a good lap in Zandvoort in Fun Cup in the rain. So let's now ride along with me for this final lap. And that would be it. I know this was a very long video, but the race was also very long and full of action, so forgive me for that. But yeah, unfortunately I don't have any video material from the 4-hour race that happened on Saturday before this race, or the next race that we had in Spa-Francorchamps. But hopefully you like this, and I'll see you next time.
Nice job. Good job.